find our path forward by creating more heroes, not by blaming the villains of the past. A path forward that works for everyone. It's not going to help anyone to blame all the white middle-class men as the villains of the past, and we need to find a new way forward. It's just not going to work. We need to find a path forward that works for everyone, and we need to meet people where they are. We need to show respect, we need to show understanding, and we need to find a way forward that accommodates everyone, that works for everyone. It's absolutely critical. And if we look at the inclusion awakening, if you like, there are sort of several steps along the way. So you might be opposed, which is where you're against any change, and you don't want to encourage any more diversity and inclusion. You ultimately don't think it's a good thing. And there are many people who think like this. I don't think you would be on this call if this was something that you believed in. But we have to acknowledge that there are many people who believe this, and we can't kind of pretend that that's not the case. It absolutely is. You may be unaware, so it hasn't really been on your radar. It's not been something that's come up in your world particularly. And if I'm honest, most of my career, well, you know, I'm Jewish, so I'm aware of a kind of persecuted race. I grew up in apartheid South Africa. I'm aware of discrimination. But in terms of business, for most of my career, I would place myself on this unaware. I didn't connect it to business. And, you know, for me, that has changed dramatically in the last few years. You might be aware, where you're building your knowledge and you're building your understanding. You might be an ally, where you are actually taking action to help others. You're doing things that will help others. Or you may be an advocate, where you're changing mindsets, and you're now not just helping individuals, but you're changing systems, and you're galvanizing action, galvanizing others to take action. So these are the 5 stages, and it's really helpful to think about the spectrum, because you can think about where you are on the spectrum, and you can think about where other people that surround you are on this spectrum, and what your next steps might be and how you might think will differ depending on where you are on the spectrum. I want to give you some statements of things that people might say, just so that you've got some food for thought. Okay, so we're going to start with the people who are opposed. So the people who are opposed might say things like, I think things may go too far in the other direction with positive discrimination and quotas. They might say, I think people are too sensitive. They might say, this is about business, not people's personal issues. They might say, people's ability to thrive at work is down to the individuals, not broader characteristics such as gender or race. They might say, we've always done it this way and it's been fine up until now. I see no reason to change. They might say, shareholders just aren't interested in the makeup of the board, so why should we be? And they might say, I don't see why there should be special groups just for women or people of colour. Why should they get more support than everyone else? So moving on to the people who are unaware, here are just some things that they might say. They might say, all lives matter. They might say, I hire the best people irrespective of who they are. The best talent will rise to the top. They might say, I'm just too busy to think about this at the moment, and it's not really related to my job. They might say, I haven't really come across exclusion or discrimination in my workplace. They might say, we can't control the pipeline, so we're limited in what we can actually do. They might say, we have someone in HR working on that. They might say, this isn't an issue at my company, we've got a great team. Or they might say, it's a meritocracy, I'm not prepared to compromise on quality. Or they might say, as long as we have diversity of thought, it doesn't really matter about gender, race, or other aspects of diversity. Or they might say, just because I'm white, I don't see that I have any advantage over anyone else. So moving on to the people who are aware. They might say, I know the playing field isn't level. They might say, I'm starting to realise just how much I don't know. They might say, I'm scared of saying the wrong thing, so it's better not to say anything at all. They might say, I've been awoken to a problem that I was blind to in the past. They might say, I'm constantly building my understanding of other people's perspectives and experiences. They might say, I'm developing my own sense of self-awareness about my own biases. They might say, I'm becoming more tuned into advantages and disadvantages that different groups face. Or they might say, I know this is important, but I'm just not sure specifically what I can do to help. So moving on to the allies. They might say, I help others with problems that are not my own. They might say, I actively support others towards equity and equal opportunities. Or I'm stretching my comfort zone to embrace difficult conversations. Or I speak up against bias and discrimination. Or I've got a good sense of what good looks like. Or I call out bad behavior, language. I'm constantly developing my knowledge and understanding. I've diversified my personal network and continue to do so. And I'm continuing to develop my level of comfort about talking about sensitive topics and knowing the right language to use. And I'm comfortable sharing my personal stories to help others. I'm starting to see the cracks and the biases that need fixing at a system level. So if we move on to the advocates might say, I'm proud to be a champion of change. I'll take brave, courageous, and public action that challenges the status quo, shifts behaviors, and creates systemic change. Inclusion is built into all the work that I do. I'm constantly suggesting strategies, providing guidance, raising conversations, and spotting opportunities to improve systems and processes. I commit time, resource, and energy into driving change. I'm unafraid to have difficult conversations or challenge beliefs or behaviors of others, always respectfully. Or it feels amazing to know that I'm making a meaningful difference.